carry on.
What's that noise in the background?
I think my phone was playing. I think it was Vincent Company. Just ignore.
Thanks.
Hello.
What an absolutely fine start.
What a start.
I know. Hello, welcome to Forest Focus. It's voting time nationally, and it's voting time for us as we give out our end of season awards, and we'll also discuss the latest on Nuno, as he's either about to be replaced as Nottingham Forest manager or land a top job abroad, depending on what you read. Joining me to discuss all that is not Vincent Company, he's off to Bayern Munich, but it is Greg Mitchell. How are you doing?
All right, yeah. I actually got mocked for saying Vincent Company would make a good Forest manager the other week, and now he's off to Munich. So, yeah,
I don't think he made a good Forest manager. Now he's got the Bayern Munich job.
Just
for the job he's done. Second guest today is Mikey Clarke. Mikey, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Matt. How are you, mate?
Good. Happy birthday to Mrs. Clarke as well. I was going to say 6 people have turned off, but I've actually got a few more now, so it's not too bad. And third guest is Michael Temple. Temps, how are you?
Glad to be here. I've let you down a bit the last couple of times, so I've just absolutely carved out some golden time in my schedule to speak to you three fellas.
Good. Well, any time with you is golden indeed. You can kick us off, Temps. Before we get into our awards, I asked Kelvin this yesterday. Give us a grade for the season, which is probably a concise way of summing it up in terms of scale of success to failure. What grade would you give us for this campaign?
Okay, it's a D, sadly, because I think the quality and talent within the squad could have achieved so much more. Yes, we were clobbered by VAR, we were clobbered by the points deduction, but we had enough situations in winning positions where game management let us down. And I think the sum total of the quality of the players within our squad could get us 12 points beyond where we are now. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. I think if the players and the management staff were open with themselves, honest with themselves, they'd probably come to a similar conclusion. I think if that squad, without any change, had another season in the Premier League, they would improve, they would kick on, they would be a little bit older and wiser for what they are. There were too many moments in the season where we let ourselves down from winning positions and couldn't manage the last 20 minutes. Maybe occasions too where we couldn't make enough of a positive change to turn things around. So disappointing season, but we've come out with Premier League status intact. We dust ourselves down, have some considered recruitment, and we go again. But I think we needed to hold ourselves to a higher standard this year than last. Fell a bit short of where we could have ended up. But I'm absolutely positively looking forward to next year and convinced that we'll see ourselves climb the table.
Yesterday's show, it said there was 3 people watching us all the way through. Obviously there wasn't, but it's a relief there's lots of people with us today. So do play along with all this if you want in the live chat. Drop your grades A to F in, and I'll read a few of those out, and do join us with the awards for your nominations. Mikey, what about you? A letter for the season?
Yeah, it's a D as well for very similar reasons to what Temps was saying. I think got to be realistic as a fan base. If you would have said to us, you'll stay up this season, I think everybody would have gone, yeah, fine. But the way it transpired and the twists and turns and the sacking of a manager and all the nonsense with VAR and the points deductions and the emotional roller coaster, for want of a better phrase, that we've all been on, it feels disappointing, but with a bit of relief in there that we just managed to survive. So I think if you look back on the entire season, I think we did fall short. I think I'm with Temps. I think 10 or 12 points we threw away. We can talk about all those games where we were leading. How many games did we lose 3-2? How many games did we let in a goal in the last 5 minutes? We couldn't defend set pieces. So all these things transpired to make it a very difficult season. But at the end of the day, and the record books will say we stayed up and we've got our 3rd Premier League season to look forward to in a row. But if you're looking at it from an owner and you take the emotion out of it, we did underperform. And if you're going to be harsh, we probably stayed up because the 3 teams that came up weren't of sufficient quality to compete in the league over a tough season. So for me, Matt, it's a D. However, again, agree with Temps. I think there's a lot to look forward to this season, as long as, and I think that phrase that he used was great, considered recruitment comes in, because it's all about that. We've got a lot to look forward to. There is a basis of a really good squad here. So although I'm being a little bit harsh, I think the future's positive.
Lots of people in the comments saying D. I saw a D+. I saw a C-. What about you, Greg?
I'm only going in the A to C category when we're in Europe on a Thursday night. I liked the comment that's now disappeared that said 3rd best season in the last 22 years. So I'll go with that one. I like the positive spin on it. We've stayed up. We can build for next season and we should be stronger. It was disappointing. You only have to look at my predictions, especially from pre-season last season. Of course, it was disappointing, but the main goal of these first few seasons is always to stay up, and we've done that. It's just a shame we couldn't have stayed up with the same manager. But yeah, D at best, I'd say. But good to be in it again for next year.
I'd say probably go C- for me. The baseline stay in the league, and is C- a passing grade, the lowest possible passing grade. So I suppose that will be it. But it's not been very inspiring at all, certainly. And the consensus seems to be around a D or something like that. Right, we'll wade through the awards that I've listed down. The categories are all quite predictable, maybe a few odd, interesting ones thrown in, and then we'll discuss Nuno towards the end. The obvious one to start with, Mikey, is Player of the Season. Who are you going with?
There's a couple in consideration. Be interested to see what these guys have got, but I had to think about this, and I'm going to go for Chris Wood. And let me tell you why. When you look at last season, when the teams went down, they didn't necessarily have a goal scorer to get them then 10, 15, 20 goals. And it was the same this season. And I think when you lose one of your talisman, like Taiwo, and he's had a stop-start season, he's been out pretty much 6 months, hasn't he, give or take? I mean, he came back and didn't look the same player. It needed somebody to step up and score us those goals. And Chris Wood, if you remember when he joined the club, got a lot of stick from being included, because I didn't quite understand it. I fully understand it now. I think he was absolutely integral for us in terms of the way we play, his experience, not just the goals. I think he got 14 goals, might be wrong, an assist as well in 31 games I wrote down. That is a phenomenal return for somebody that was second choice striker that's, in the twilight of his career and has got a bit of stick from the fans. So what he's overcome to get himself in a team, almost be one of the first names on the team sheet, and lead that relatively young, inexperienced team to get over the line, I think is phenomenal. You take him out of that team, who's going to score us the goals? Who's going to get 5 or 10 goals? We go down. Honestly, I think it's as simple as that, because you can't rely on Taiwo because he's not fit. And I think Chris Wood has exceeded all expectations. And I, for one, owe him a bit of an apology. I think he's been fantastic. And thank God he's staying for another year, because we need him. So, yeah, for me, Chris Wood.
Some love for that shout in the comments for Mikey. What about you, Greg? Who are you voting for?
I think you've got to go obvious, and it's obvious to me because it's pretty clear that it was Gibbs White. I think he was influential in so many of those goals, so many of Chris Wood's goals. I'd love to give it Murillo, because I think Murillo is going to be one of the best players we've ever seen in a City Ground shirt. But if you're going off the season, you can't do that, and it might be the only chance we get to see him, sadly. But Gibbs White is turning into that captain material we need. He had so much of the ball, and I think that's why he gets the stick, because in a team that doesn't get a lot of the ball, when it all goes through one man, as soon as he makes a mistake, everyone is on him. But he was just influential, and he was such an improvement on a great season he had last season. And if we're lucky enough or somehow manage to keep him next season, he will be the guy again that we build the side around. And I just hope that is the case. So he deserves it. I know it's the obvious choice, but for me, it's the right one.
Emily and Mark couldn't be here, and nor could Pete as our main other contributors. So I've asked them to play along. Apologies to Pete, because being Pete, he sent me very long, detailed, thoughtful notes on every one of these. And I'm just going to read out the names that they've given, because we'd be here all day otherwise. So sorry, Pete. Right. Emily went for Gibbs White. Pete went for Wood, and Mark went for Murillo. So you're close to having a casting vote here, Tam, so it might be me. Who are you voting for?
I went for Murillo. I love the Chris Wood shout, though. He only started 20 games and scored 14 goals. He could have legitimately been a 20-goal Premier League striker had he started every game. I think he goes into next year giving Taiwo genuine competition if we play one up front in our first fixture. But Murillo came from absolutely nowhere to be undroppable. Didn't make a single appearance from the bench. From the moment he was picked until the end of the season, he was absolutely inked in. I think he's a majestic Rolls Royce of a footballer already. So many instances of saving tackles, blocks on the line, covering tackles. And yeah, we've analysed him to death, haven't we? And there are raw elements to his game. If he's around next year, he'll kick on again. I think he is a defender that even the very top Premier League strikers will not enjoy coming up against, just because of his sheer physicality and kind of effortless strength. And for that, because he was unheralded and had no build-up whatsoever, came in, strolled into the Premier League and looked like he instantly belonged, I voted for Murillo.
So that's 2 votes for Wood, 2 votes for Gibbs-White, 2 votes for Murillo. So I've got the casting vote. I gave it some thought, and it came down to 2, but for me, Wood's a really good shout. But I was thinking, which of our players would get in the other 20 squads based on what we've seen this season, the other 20 starting 11s? And I think only Gibbs-White and Murillo would get in, really loads of them, up to like 17 or 18 even. So it came down to those 2. And I just went for Gibbs-White, because if you take Gibbs-White out of the team, I don't think it functions, basically. I think there's everything revolves around him to make us any kind of, to get us wins, basically. And you could play him. Mark said, I think it was Mark who said this. You could play him in 3 different positions. I suspect he'd be our best player as a 6, an 8, or a 10. So I think for me it's Gibbs-White, but you can certainly make a shout for the other 2. So that means Gibbs-White is our player of the season, basically. I'm sure he's absolutely bloody thrilled by that.
Does he get a mug?
Well done, Morgan. He will in 6
mug?
months' time from Matt Davies if he's sending it. He'll get it at Christmas.
6 months. I'm doing it special delivery. If it's 6 months, that's about half the time as normal. Right, let's move on to goal of the season. We'll start with, I hope you've given this some thought, Greg, so I'll start with you first.
I've wrote everyone down, as you know. I'm always prepared, so thank you, I have. It was just part of one of the best days for me. Pre-match in the away pub on Boxing Day, didn't want to be there, was still hungover. Speaking to a Newcastle fan, could not believe that we'd spent money on Chris Wood. They were going to beat us 2-0. Wonderful bloke, but when Chris Wood scored that goal, when it got threaded through to him and he chipped it over the keeper, the way he took it, the way it made the game it was just brilliant. It was one of the best moments, and for me, goal of the season as part of the whole day, really. And it was superb. So that's one that sticks in the memory.
What about you, Mikey?
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. I'm going to go for Gibbs-White against Man United, and the reason for that, I think it typifies us when we're at our best, which is quick, incisive, counter-attacking on the back of some adversity. So if everybody cast their mind back, they've just equalised after a bit of a mistake from a keeper. A few of them this season, weren't they? So the crowd are a bit down, having been quite high before that. And we're under pressure. Eriksen has a shot saved. And then within 10 seconds, it's in their net. And this sums up everything that we're brilliant at, which is transitioning very quickly from a defensive structure to overload them going forward. So Yates brings the ball out, gives it to Elanga. Don't know where their midfield is, but that was their story of their season. But it doesn't matter. Just focus on us. Pulls it back and Gibbs-White sets it out outside the post, bends it in. Absolutely brilliant finish. Wonderful finish, and just sums up everything we're about. And it goes off the back of what Greg was saying. I think it was the game after the Newcastle game. So we had a week where we beat two teams that we weren't really expected to beat. I think some people thought we might get something against Man U, but certainly not on Boxing Day. And it was just after Nuno had taken over. So with all that, the highness of the fans, the lack of expectancy for that week in general, and the way that match panned out, culminating with that brilliant finish by Gibbs-White. And I remember how I felt watching it in the ground. I was one of them that was just like, oh my God, our goalkeeper, what's going off here? We're going to lose. And then straight away, bang, proper Forest tear into him, and we see the game out. So that stands in my mind as a brilliant game and a brilliant way to finish and goal of the season.
Quite a lot of Callum Hudson-Odoi love in the comments for a few of his goals. There was 2 people who went for Hudson-Odoi. Pete went for Hudson-Odoi at home, his first goal for us. Mark went for Hudson-Odoi at home as well. And Emily, being Emily, went for Ryan Yates away at Sheffield United for sentimental reasons. Greg was going to do this. I thought Greg might do that.
No, I'm glad she did, though.
So for me, before I come to temps, there were a couple, sort of similar to Mikey, Hudson-Odoi at home to Chelsea, where obviously we lost the game, but that came from Sells passing it out. His distribution made a real difference. And then I think Elanga and Gibbs White combined, pass out to Hudson-Odoi, one into the other, actual proper quality goals that was there. And people might think this is a weird one, but I picked Chris Wood at home to Fulham, where he scored from about 30 yards. And I thought that was such an underrated goal, where he's played it through the defender's legs and the keeper hasn't moved, and it looked like it was deflected. And I think that was like prime Chris Wood in the prime Ronaldo R9 era, because it was such a class goal that I'd almost forgotten about it, actually. But then Chris Wood had his own kind of goal of the season competition there with the flick header and all sorts of stuff like that and everything. So, yeah, one of those. There's one leading contender at the moment there. Temps, have you got anything different, or are you going to say one of those?
So many great goals that Forest have scored this year. We haven't even mentioned Morgan Gibbs-White against Man United. The fact that Callum Hudson-Odoi scores the same goal every other week, and even though you know he's going to come in from the fullback, use the centre half as a shadow, and keep the keeper rooted while he sticks it far stick, there's still nothing you can do about it. But for the sheer audacity, defying physics, and absolutely meaning it, I've gone Chris Wood off the back of the head at the City Ground.
Very good. So, actually, Chris Wood had loads of contenders, but the only one with multiple votes was Callum Hudson-Odoi v Burnley at home. So I guess that would be our winner. There's a couple of people shouting out Danilo at Brentford. That was a good one as well.
Taiwo at Man U.
Taiwo at Man U. Taiwo at Arsenal as well.
Taiwo at Arsenal, great goal.
Yeah, it's just a shame when you lose. I always struggle to get them when they lose. It just...
Yeah. Ilanga at Chelsea, that was a good one as well. A good counter-attacking goal. So yeah, I put in our notes. I can't think of many good goals this season, but now we've listed them. We've actually scored loads of good goals. What?
Well, there's 15 great ones that we've described.
Oh, there's 15. I thought you said where's 15. Oh, yeah, I know exactly. Which is just a shame we conceded so many. Right, signing of the season then is the next one. Temps, kick us off with that one if you would.
Yeah, I'm just referring back to the notes that I sent you this morning, Matt, so I don't contravene myself. It's Murillo again, just because it's a result of thorough scouting. It's somebody that nobody else has seen, or at least if they have, we've been prepared to put our money where our mouth is and pay more to get him in. Long contract guarantees either a world of a player or a significant transfer fee on the way out. So I think Murillo is going to be a gift that keeps on giving. And even if he leaves us, we're going to get a gold-plated check to invest in our football club. I just think it's an inspired signing. It's clearly the result of a lot of thought. Someone spotted it, executed it, got him here. He settled straight away. Murillo is the signing of the season.
Pretty much everyone in the comments already saying Murillo. So just briefly, because I think most people are saying this, Pete, Mark, and Emily all said Murillo as well. Any different offering, Greg, or Murillo for you?
I didn't realise we were supposed to actually send in our notes to you.
No, you didn't have to.
Yeah, I'm going to go something different because I think it's signing of the season, but it's the value it's going to create for us next season as well. And it was Matt Sells. We were so desperate for a keeper and for a steady keeper and for a genuine number one. And that's what we've got. And we've got our number one for next season as well, which is huge. We haven't got to go do that merry-go-round of goalkeepers in the summer. So I think it was crucial we got him. None of us were really expecting a lot. And we got our man. So it was a cracking signing and one for next season and hopefully the season after as well. So Matt Sells.
Very good answer. I like that. Mikey, anyone else for you?
Yeah, I've got two different ones. Obviously, Murillo jumps out. The two that I wanted to mention were Ola Aina on a free because he's been excellent. He had a bit of a dip when Steve Cooper went, but then again, the whole team did. But other than that, for a free transfer and what he brings to the side with his energy, we all see the videos. He looks like a really good lad, a good egg to have around, and a very good footballer that's very versatile and can play on either flank. So he was excellent bit of business for free. And the other one I wanted to shout out was Callum Hudson-Odoi for £3 million, I think it was. So when we bought him, I came on here and said, what a steal that is. And I think I was met with potentially that his career's gone backwards. But I think my retort was, well, you don't get to where he has been before and been scouted by Bayern for 60, 70 million quid if you've not got it in the tank or in the locker, should I say. And what we've seen in the last couple of months is he's got it. He's not lost it. It's still there. So his goals and Temps articulated it brilliantly. You know what he's going to do, but you can't stop him. So he's one that has now got back to full fitness. He's getting a run in the team. He's finding his love of the game again. I guess you can see it in his face. And for £3 million, I think he's an absolute steal, and his goals were crucial. So I think he's one worth shouting out. I think it's probably going to be Murillo, but Callum and Ola I wanted to shout out.
Mikey, I'll just add to that. I think we're going to struggle to keep hold of Callum Hudson-Odoi in this window, because every Premier League club has sat back at the point he's come to the market and said, no, not for us, even at that price. Watching, waiting, seeing if he still is what he looked to be a couple of years ago. Had a really bad time with injuries, but he's a Premier League star in most places at the top of his game. He's certainly a top half bench warmer, even at those sides knocking on European competition. His value has rocketed. I think he's motivated and ambitious enough to have that self-belief to get on. His attitude has been first class. He hasn't wallowed. He hasn't seen it as any kind of come down. He's got out there, self-motivated, ingratiated himself to his teammates, and had a really, really good season. Of course, we'd like to see more games from him. We'd like him to be more resilient. We hope the Achilles problem he had last game at home isn't any kind of major issue. I don't think it is. But what a player he's become. And yeah, I can see why the likes of Spurs would come knocking.
Yeah, all very good answers and all very good points. I went for Murillo for the reasons I think Temps outlined, but you can certainly make a case for the other ones that everyone's said there, certainly. So, yeah, Murillo signing of the season. Right, we'll rattle through a few more, but just before we do that, a couple of things around the Trent Nav, our fantastic sponsors. Greg, talk to us about Forza Fest. It's closing in, what's happening, and I think it's fair to say you need to sell tickets in advance, because this is the difficult thing of organising these big concerts. You need people to buy in advance if they can.
Yeah, people are waiting for payday. We're selling okay. We're obviously not sold out yet, but we want to pay all these bands what they deserve, and we've got a few charities set up ready for the people there to decide which one we go for. I've been listening to Molly Rolfe for the last couple of days. She's a huge Forest fan, incredible voice, reminds me a bit of Amy Winehouse. So even if you can't come to this festival, which we would love you to do, just check out some of the artists and share it for us, because it's exciting for us to try and put it together. I didn't realise how hard it can be trying to put it together, but we're enjoying it. So get behind it. It's a great venue and some just brilliant local artists. So check them out.
Yeah, staying with a great venue, although some less impressive local artists. Our live show is on Thursday, June the 13th. So do buy your tickets for that if you can. The link to get your tickets is in the description for this episode. It is, as I said before, Lewis and Gary are the main people on the panel, but there'll be podcast regulars on as well. I just haven't decided who it is yet. But yeah, there'll be another good show, I'm sure, and £1 from each ticket, as ever, goes to charity. Right, let's move along to our next award, which is Most Improved Player. Maybe a shoe-in for this one, I don't know. Mikey, kick us off.
I only got one player down on this, and that's Nico Williams. I don't know whether everybody else has got the same. So this is a guy that obviously was brought in, and me for one thought, have we got him in because he's the next Jed Spence? I don't know. You have that mindset, don't you? And he, I think it's fair to say, he probably struggled a little bit, and the whole team did when we first got in this league, and it's been a bit stop-start for him. He's never really nailed that fullback position down up until recently. You think of all the fullbacks we brought in, bloody millions of them. But I think it's now fair to say that if he's fit, he plays. And that's because of his improvement, probably since Nuno took over, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think he's all energy. I think he won Player of the Month, 2-3 months in a row. I think that says a lot about a lot of things, but it certainly says a lot about him and his endeavour and his work rate. Now, whether he's improved technically, I'm not sure, but you cannot question what he brings to this football team and his versatility. And I think he's definitely worth being up for this particular award. One, because I couldn't think of anybody else, because there's been a lot of underperformers. But two, he's really stood out, and he was one of the main reasons why we stayed in this league. So well done, Nico.
I'm glad you gave a long answer there, because my internet froze for pretty much the duration of it. I'm sure it's very eloquent. Everyone in the comments says Nico. Pete, Mark, and then Nico. I've got Nico. So anyone else for you, Greg?
I've wrote down Nico, so I'm not going to change it just to be different, and just everything Mikey said was bang on. So yeah, it's Nico for me. Who's taking over at
The honourable mention is Chris Wood, isn't he? Because as Mikey said, back end of last year, we were still unconvinced. So honourable mention for Chris Wood, but he probably always had that in him. This was Nico's first opportunity to be a regular Premier League player. He was signed to be in a wing-back system as a Jed Spence by another name, for want of a better phrase. We then abandoned that shape, went to a flat-back four, and he had to learn to play full-back. Did it exceptionally well. Didn't compromise a lot of his attacking prowess, but he's improved so much as a defender. So I agree with the entire panel that Nico is the most improved player.
My internet had a total meltdown there, so I don't know. Yeah, hopefully that's it, and I'm good now for the rest of the show. Next one is best moment of the season. I'll just read out what the other guys said for this one first. Emily says first half against Fulham has got to be the benchmark for how we play. Mark had Chris Wood's performance at Newcastle, and Pete had Gibbs White's goal against Fulham, so more specifically than Emily. But that was the high point of the season, Pete, was when we went, was it 3-0 up? It would have been 3-0 up, wouldn't it, against Fulham? Greg, what about you?
I've got one and an honourable mention, if that's all right. Newcastle away, just because I was hungover. I did not want to be there. It was incredible. It was just a brilliant day, and we thought, wow, what's going to happen here? So all the hope that came after that, Newcastle away after the game, it was just fantastic. An honourable mention to pre-match Chelsea in the NAF, just watching those scores come in, and the celebrations. Like I said previously, I rang my dad before the game for the first time ever because it felt like we'd already played. It was superb. So yeah, what a day that was, other than the result. But Newcastle away for me.
Excellent. Man United at home for me, but it's more personal because I took my daughter to it and she absolutely loved it. I mentioned that loads of times before, but I think that was when I finally hooked her in as a Forest fan for good. So yeah, beating Man United at home for me. What about you, Temps?
The experience of the Fulham game at home was exceptional. Just having a cigar on and being relaxed throughout an entire Forest game, knowing everything would be okay. But Chris Wood, as a moment, Chris Wood completing his hat trick against his former club in a game that gave us that, that Nuno bounce. And I think assured us at the time, briefly, that we were going to be okay. We weren't going to be trapped in a relegation dogfight. Obviously, took a bit of a dark turn a few weeks later when we couldn't buy a win. But for me, Chris Wood completing his hat trick, disproving the doubters, including myself and Mikey, as we've admitted earlier, was a really, really important moment and one that I really enjoyed.
Excuse me. What about you, Mikey? And similar or something different?
Yeah, similar. I asked my brother this, and he said the best moment of the season was West Ham beating Luton. So on the last day,
Similar.
Yeah, similar. So that's a good shout out. For me, it was two things: beating Man United at home because we played them 78 times that season before and lost every single time. Didn't score a goal. I think we lost 12-0 or something overall. So to actually turn them over, as poor as they've been, that was big over the Christmas period. But I think on reflection, that first half against Fulham, if you can call a half a moment, I think that those sort of 20, 25 minutes sandwiched in the middle of that first half was exceptional peak Forest. And typical Forest, we couldn't keep it up in the second half, but that's the definition of a team that struggles. However, I remember turning around to Lindsay and a few that sit around me with this face that I've just done, like, what is going on? Like, where's this team been all season? Like, unbelievable. I was just watching. I couldn't believe what I was watching. So if we reach anything like that next season, we'll be absolutely fine. So I've not seen us play like that for a long time. So I'm going to go for Fulham at home.
Lots of good answers in the comment. A few comments, a few personal ones. Good one from Lee here about Matt Sells giving his boy his gloves after the City game. And those are the kind of things that I love that kids will remember forever. So, yeah, that's very good. Right. On the flip side of that, we have the worst moments of the season. And I suppose there's been a few. I won't go to Greg first because he never has a bad moment, I'm sure. So, 4. Okay, well, we'll come to you later then. Save them. Keep your powder dry. Mikey, what about you?
Well, I've got 3. Let's see if they're the same as Greg's.
Lads, you know the question, don't you? The worst moment.
We've only got half an hour, but we could fill it.
I'm going to do 3, 2, 1. So, so 2 that were really bad and 1 that was just horrific. So obviously Cooper leaving. all good things come to an end. Was it the right time? Probably. Very sad to see him go, obviously. End of the era, what he did for us was incredible. So that wasn't great, and it's worth shouting that out. The second one's a bit of a weird one. West Ham away. When we went 2-1 up and then lost to 2 set pieces, I texted you in and I just put weak because that was it.
But then you texted me that after about 4 games in a row after that.
Pretty much, because I could see a pattern developing of us not being able to defend the high ball, and it just continued the whole season. So for me, I know we did it before then, but for me, being at that game, I could see a fundamental flaw in Forest defending a high ball into the box, as everybody could, and we didn't fix it pretty much. So that was pretty bad. But for me, the worst one of the season was the Willy Bolly sending off. Right, and the reason I say that is when he made the tackle, I stood up and applauded because it was a cracking tackle. I have to say that is the worst decision I think I've ever seen live at a game. Genuinely, I cannot remember one. I've seen players dive in. I've seen players feigning injury. I've seen like goals given that shouldn't have been given. But to win the ball cleanly and then be sent off for it just kind of summed our season up a little bit. It was disgraceful decision. So the worst moment for me was that, because it kind of like everything snowballed from there, didn't it? Like, what's the rest doing? Are they against us? And then obviously you get everything that goes down the line. But that was almost the catalyst for it. And I hated it. Disgraceful decision. So I'm going to go Bolly sending off.
Very good, very good. Pete had Cooper going. I think he said, I haven't got it to hand, but I think he said he knew it was coming. But Cooper had restored his love of the club, basically. So that was obviously sad for him. Mark had Fulham away, as it was the moment we realised Cooper was going to go. And Emily had Liverpool defeat in the 97th minute. For me, slightly different. Fulham away was one, but I went Luton at home. When the moment Cooper made those subs, that was the beginning of the end for him, I think. Once those goals went in, it just seemed to unravel pretty quickly from there. So, yeah, those subs against Luton at home for me. What about you, Temps?
Mine was the Matt Turner mistake, which led to the Kulusevski goal against Spurs. Under relatively little pressure, like a half-hearted press, you could see that he was just so uncomfortable kicking the ball, running around it like an under-12 with limited talent, and then gets himself back into shape, and Kulusevski smashes it straight through his hands. And at that point, it was just quite sad to see someone who couldn't live with the level and was struggling and needed to be parachuted out of there, enter Matt Sells a few weeks later. But that moment for me just compounded the fact that we'd made a mistake and had no one else in the squad that could cover it. I don't like watching a player struggle while playing for Forest. And sadly, in that moment, Matt Turner was the kind of living embodiment of that. It's a clip that I still don't enjoy watching.
All good answers. Quite a few people saying Fulham away or Liverpool at home as well. Right, Greg Mitchell, 4-3-2-1. What have you got?
I've added a fifth. Liverpool at home was horrendous. That ending was just ridiculous. Everton away, just every single decision. Should have had 17 penalties, didn't get them. My one I'm going to choose, there's Brentford away, the blooming Ivan Toney show, moving the game so he got to play and then completely cheated and no one saw it. The one I'm choosing is Mullaf Kintyre not playing for Everton at home. It set the show for what was to come, and for me, that was the end of Cooper. Just everything about that day. As soon as Mullaf Kintyre didn't play, my heart sunk. We had a display that pretty much failed because of it, and it was the beginning of the end, and it was just a very, very sad day. My personal low point I will talk about on the live show if I'm on stage, because I don't want it to go on the internet, as you all know.
No, oh gosh, all right. You might not be the live show might be live streamed, so you might not be able to talk about it.
Can I tell that story without fear of a media litigation lawyer banging on my door?
My lawyer is on the phone, ready to go.
Probably not yet. It's a good story. We'll save it for another day, hopefully. If not, we'll do it. We'll do it one day. Don't worry. Right, that's a good hook to leave people on. What was the other one? Oh yeah, there's one more. It's a bit of an open-ended question. I just put funniest, strangest / weirdest moment of the season. So you're going to get quite an array of answers here. You could probably give the same answers you weren't going to give before, Greg. What are you going to say for this?
Don't go to me first on this one. What was the question? I wasn't listening.
I'll give you one because I was going to go with the Willy Bolly tackle. Strangest decision ever. What a tackle! Red card. Clattenburg. We've appointed a Gladiators referee to write Daily Mail articles 3 hours after the fact and seemingly have no influence whatsoever in the world that he wants to influence. And then when it's been debated by Nevin Carra, he's evaporated more quickly than he arrived. The whole thing was weird, played out in a strange way. Not sure what value, if any, he added. And it probably fed the kind of external narrative that strange things happen at Forest. I thought that the whole thing was just a debacle. And I don't think we'll be looking to appoint another referee coordinator anytime soon.
Very good. Mikey, what about you?
Yeah, I Clattenburg too. The only other one I had was everybody remembers a video with Joe Worrell and Nico Williams on it, where Nico Williams basically said he thought the tiger was the king of the jungle, and Joe Worrell sort of corrected him and went, "Don't think it is." That was quite funny. So much so that my wife Lindsay calls him King of the Jungle every time he gets the ball. It's crazy. So it showed a bit of a human side to them. I love those videos that the club tweets. Just gets us inside some of what the player's character is, and don't know what it says about Nico, bless him, but he looks a lovely lad. So there's that one. But to be honest, Temps is right. Clattenburg made no sense to me at the start, and it still makes no sense to me either. And I don't think it reflected well on our club at all. So hopefully it's a failed experiment that we'll never take up again.
Very good. Are you going to come in? Have you thought of one?
No, I'd got one. I wasn't listening to the question. I didn't know where you'd gone, and you went, Greg. I was, oh crap. I can't believe that's the social media post you went for, Mikey, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Walking out of Everton away, really upset and disheartened and angry at the decisions, to see every single person gathered in threes or fours looking at the phones going, no, that's not real. That, of course it's not real. Check Forest social media, and seeing it and just knowing what was to come, instantly forgetting about the result and everything. I look back now and think it was quite genius because it put us against the world. We booed that Premier League anthem for every single game after. We really galvanised the crowd. So it was the tweet after Everton away for me.
Yeah, it was for me too. Mark's answer just said that tweet, and I think I knew what he meant. Emily said she laughed when Olorena beat Carl Walker around the length of the pitch and then proceeded to stay up that end of the pitch for about 10 minutes because he was so gassed and couldn't get back. And then Pete picked quite a weird one, which was quite funny actually as well. Remember at Blackpool when Murillo smashed the ball into the stand and then that Blackpool fan ran up to him and screamed in his face for about 5 minutes. This poor Brazilian fella wondering what's going on here while I'm playing in freezing conditions on a pitch with no grass and some mad Blackpool fan screaming at me. So yeah, I think it's that tweet that was pretty mind-blowing at the time. It set the Twitter world on fire. I don't know how many views it got in the end. 50 million or something?
Yeah, it was way over 40 after about 3 days.
There were weirder ones as well. Callum Hudson-Odoi saying that I wasn't on Epstein Island. I was 3 at the time.
Nor was I. So fair play.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
We're allowed to say.
No. And Nuno Tavares and his association with pets, I think, was probably the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, but apart from all that,
it's been steady.
Pretty season. Yeah. Nothing to talk about here. Nothing to see.
Exactly. Let me just thank Club Monkey Tennis. What a fantastic name for signing up for channel membership. Very much appreciate that. Before we move on to talk about Nuno, our second sponsors for this episode are Home Move Estate Agents. I've got a cough, excuse me. If you need to buy or sell a house, then do call Ben Sales 0115 832 1321. Ben at homemovea.co.uk. Fantastic sponsors. Met him a couple of times. No, once at the live show. Lovely guy. And he told me he's mates with Tyro because he sorted a house out for Tyro. So he can sort a house for Tyro. He can sort a house for you. And he's very well reviewed on Google, of course. Right, one more sponsor to come. But before we do that, we'll talk about Nuno. I can't decide if he's going to be kicked out of the club because they don't want him or if he's going to get the Porto job. job, or he's going to get the Valencia job or something. Now reports today linking us with the Fiorentina manager. Is it all a bit of a case of sort of a briefing war attempts, and we'll probably just end up with Nuno come hell or high water when the season kicks off?
I can't decipher it. I think it's generally a coin flip as to whether Nuno will start the season with Forest or not. Very rare that it would drag on for any particular length of time. I think it's in manager and club interest and potential suitor interest and available candidates interest to get these kind of things sorted as early as possible. But May, early June is the time when everybody has their break, so it will be resolved before pre-season, I'm sure, because the last thing I want is someone being in charge at the start of pre-season, start of a window, only to have the rug pulled as we get closer to the season without any meaningful action on the pitch. So I don't know. I'm not attached to Nuno in the way that I was attached to the previous manager. But if he brings us success next year, then that will change. That's the fickle nature of football. I wouldn't be surprised either way. I have no strong opinion at this moment in time if he stays or goes. I wouldn't say I'm ambivalent to it, because I think ideally I want a solid foundation, a bit more of a cautionary approach when it comes to hiring and firing than we've perhaps seen in the past. But I cannot sit here and do anything other than be on the fence. I have no strong feeling either way. I suppose that's a pretty sad place to be. But it wouldn't surprise me if he stays or goes.
Italiano is the Fiorentina manager, as Lee mentions in the comments. Is interesting, Greg, around not really warming to Nuno as much, but actually he does seem to come out of his shell a little bit. And it was interesting at Burnley at the end there. He looked like he was absolutely loving it. The players seemed to be with him. I wasn't there, obviously. Did that really come across at Turf Moor?
My opinion changed slightly to what was going to happen after Burnley away, and I couldn't agree with Temps more. I'm really on the fence, a lot more so now than I was, because even Marianakis Jr. pushed him forwards towards the crowd. Watching Cooper at Crystal Palace last season, it was like they almost begrudged him doing his fist pumps, where this time it looked like they were pushing Nuno there. Now, if he leaves for another role, I believe he'd be the last manager to do that was David Platt for Forest, which is crazy. But if he leaves for another role, he needs to do it quickly and respectfully, because like Temp says, we can't be going into pre-season and then him going off, because I know they're all on holiday, but he'll be making his plans now. And again, with Forest, they're going to be in the sticky position now with FFP and all that you could choose to sack him and have to pay him a fair wage, or is he going to leave anyway? So does that put us in a bit of limbo? My personal opinion is, although I want him to stay and kind of build a squad, if I was have to bet, I'd say he won't be here at the start of the season.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I honestly don't know. The thing is, Mikey, does two things. Premier League management seems to have gone a bit mad. We've already touched on Company getting the Bayern job. Pochettino leaving Chelsea after I thought he'd done a great job. De Zerbi going. From a Forest point of view, I guess, does this need to be resolved pretty quickly, though, either way?
Yeah, I mean, I think my view. I'm not necessarily on the fence. I know what I would do. I think there's nothing worse than uncertainty, is there? And the timeline that Temps was talking about, I think, is fair. And I think whatever way they decide to go, whether it's Nuno that wants a fresh challenge and wants to do something different, or whether it's the club that think they can upgrade rightly or wrongly, then it needs to be decided, not now, but certainly early signs of pre-season, so that the new man can have time to understand his squad, understand what he needs before the window shuts, and make sure that they're competitive when the season starts from minute one. What you don't want is what Temps was saying, which is essentially upheaval at the start of the season, be that back end of pre-season or early next season, because then you're just behind the eight ball from minute one, and you don't want that. So me personally, I'm not convinced about Nuno. If it was me, I'd be seeing who was out there. It's a bit like players on deadline day, and one goes there, and then somebody potentially becomes available next week that maybe wasn't available right now. So I think it's probably wise for both sides just to take a deep breath, take a bit of time off, see where they're at, see where their head's at, see whether they both want to reconnect and go again for next season. And if one party isn't convinced or wants to do something else, then they need to have that clean break soon as. And like you said, Matt, there are a few very interesting candidates available, and the merry-go-round has just started, hasn't it? No, Poch leaving Chelsea. I'm not saying we're going to get Poch, but you know what I mean. Things then fall into place. So if I was in the Forest hierarchy, I'd be taking a holiday, a deep breath, and then sitting around the table with Nuno and his guys in the next couple of weeks and saying, where are we at? What do you want to do? Do you fancy it again or not? And if there's any doubt on either side, you make a clean break. You say, thanks very much for keeping us up, but we're going to move on. So let's just see how it plays out. I don't think anybody needs to panic. We've stayed up. I think both sides are just maybe testing the water media-wise, seeing for reaction, seeing who's out there. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it probably happens all over the world. So let's just see how we get on with it. But yeah, if it was me, I'm still yet to be convinced. It's probably the nicest way ever put it.
I'd like him to stay personally, and I hope I kind of hope the club had already made their mind up, and if they are looking to move on, they've got a list of options, and they're not just thinking, "Oh, Pochettino's available. Let's call up his agent," and in all likelihood get knocked back. But yeah, I hope there's some decisiveness and clear forethought in place. Certainly, whatever happens. Did you want to come in, Tams? You had the look of a twitching that suggested you were rocking back and forth, ready to pile in there.
No, I just turned my camera off briefly because I was looking for my car key. I mean, look, we're going into a period now, aren't we, where we have to talk about names that are being linked with in the Daily Mail, and then even worse, we start talking about pre-season friendlies and trying to decipher meaning from experimental lineups. So I just looked back at a couple of lineups from the last pre-season, and we played Notts County at Meadow Lane with a midfield four of Josh Powell, Remo Freuler, Oral Mangala, and Alex Myton. So if you want any kind of example of how quickly things can change in football, and specifically at Forest, then try and take a guess at our lineup and our manager at this point next year, and you'll be nowhere near. We will trade. There will be significant change, and I think we're all in agreement that if Nuno's staying or going, we're none the wiser. It's far from certain, and it may be a case of watch and wait, see who's out there, and if that golden candidate is the trigger gets pulled. I think there is significant uncertainty. But let's just bask for a couple of weeks in our Premier League status and worry about that towards the end of June.
Very good. Right, before we come to any of the business, quick word for our final sponsors, Heavy Metal Football. They have a new shirt out. It's inspired by Forza, actually, I think, Greg. So, yeah, you can get that. Pre-orders now. There's a 25% discount if you use the code Forest Focus. I'll read out a slide in a minute, but there is a second one modelled by our own Ruby Naylor. Temps is very disappointed about this. He was hoping to stare ethereally into the distance modelling a shirt, but he missed out. So yeah, Heavy Metal Football released a new shirt in support of the City Ground featuring these inspiring words from Forza. There's a place on the river called home. Pre-orders now live until May the 31st. heavymetalfootball.co.uk, and like I said, you can get 25% off with your orders if you use the code Forest Focus.
The modelling gigs have dried up, mate. I think it's since Scope had his scandal. The phone just doesn't ring anymore.
No, that's, yeah, sad days. Right. Any other business? Greg Mitchell.
Check out Molly Ralph on Spotify and come and see her at Forza Fest. Please.
Very good. Mikey, anything from you?
Just two things quickly. Just happy birthday to my wife, Lindsay. She's Miss Jepper on Twitter. If anybody wants to wish her a happy birthday, I know she'd enjoy that. And just secondly, just a big thank you to everybody who I've connected with this season, all the cool people that we have beers with and stuff pre and post game. Shout out to like James and Az and Mike and Boynes and all those people, and Eddie and Justin who come over from Ireland. So all the great Forest fans that always meet and make it a more than just the game. You know, it's an event watching Forest, isn't it? It's pre and post. It's the chance to reconnect with your mates and people that you don't see all the time, and the game sometimes gets in the way of that. If I'm being honest. So just a big thank you to everybody for putting up with my moods this season, because I know I'm not the best to be around, especially when we've lost. I want to sack everyone. But yeah, just big thanks from me. Cheers, Matt.
Very good. Temps, anything from you?
Yeah, I'm just pumping another event at Trent Nav, Question of Cricket with Stuart Broad, Michael Vaughan, Phil Tufnell, Luke Fletcher, Stephen Mullaney, and we've just added Sir Alistair Cook to the lineup as well. So really good panel there. Thursday, the 18th of July. Tickets are on gigantic.com. And if you're a cricket fan, T20 starts next Friday, double header including Notts v Northampton. The Blazers playing at 2:30 as well. So get yourselves down to Trent Bridge. There's no football for a while yet. Even if you don't like cricket, you can pretend. We'll even let you sit near the away fans and have a beer in the stands. So yeah, hopefully see you all at Trent Bridge over the next few weeks.
Very good. This episode is mostly us asking for people to give money for things we're involved in, isn't it? Because mine was going to be about the live show again, Thursday, June the 13th. So yeah, if you can come along to that would be great. Great to see as many people as possible. They're always good. And like Mikey said, it's nice to connect with so many people this season, see so many people at the pub before games and in the ground and say they like what we do, which is always very kind and very
Matt,
nice.
just on that, just the interaction we get from people is absolutely amazing. I've had one negative experience when someone shouted at me across the car park outside Subway on Meadow Lane when I was with my 4-year-old girl, and they called me something nasty, a new word that she learned that day. But aside from that, we have such nice conversations with everybody that we see, and I do really appreciate it. But yeah, if you see me outside a sandwich shop with my daughter and you're angry, just crack on.
They've just reminded me of something actually. When Matt went on stage at the Nav before Chelsea,
God.
and there was booze from all corners.
All corners.
From me, yeah.
I booed as well. I think it was just me, you, and Steve.
Yeah, I know. It was you. Yeah, I know. Well, Simon thought that was a good idea. But yeah, special guest. Special, doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of star quality there. But yeah, thank you very much for that, reminding me of that. Yeah. Right, we'll leave it there. We shall be back. Actually, I'm not sure. Probably it might be Monday now. I don't know because it's a bank holiday weekend. So we shall see. But in the meantime, been good to have about 400 people with us. Very busy comments section today. Appreciate the company. Mikey, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. I enjoyed that.
Greg Mitchell, thank you very much.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Good to not often us four are on together, so I did. I enjoyed that one.
No, well, good of you to not sleep through your alarm for one of these. Yeah.
Thank you.
Forgot about that for 52 minutes. Yeah. Temps, thank you very much.
Greg didn't sleep through his alarm, and I used my lunch break so that I could be here. Mikey's in the UK, which is a rare thing as well. And Davies's internet just about stayed steady. So it's a pretty unlikely set of circumstances to have us all available at the same time. So yeah, great to chat, fellas.
And it's all come together so well. Right, we'll leave it there. Have a good day, everyone, and we shall see you soon.